All right, Daniela.
Lola, do you want to say anything before we start? Okay, this is your birth story, Lola. Today is April 4th. Today is the 27th of April.
Yeah.
And you are 10 days old right now, or around 10 days old. And your birthday was April 17th, 2024 at 1:36 a.m. You were 8.65. You're 8 pounds and 65 ounces, and you were 21 inches in length. You are a good-sized baby.
Good-sized baby.
You're a good-sized baby. This is you now, 10 days old. And so we'll just be going through our birth story with you, and see how it goes. So if you ever ask, I can give you real time and like super close to the date of how we feel and how everything's going on.
And you can see how we looked.
Yeah, how we look too after like everything. So funny. But okay, so
How do you want to start it off, Mama?
I guess we'll start off that I'll talk a little bit about the pregnancy. You were a super easy pregnancy, and you're a really happy baby in the womb. You would get lots of hiccups, and you'd give me fun little kicks and high fives and wiggles in there, and you were always in a really good position, especially toward the end. And I just had okay, you had a great pregnancy, and I think the only thing that was tough about it was heartburn, and was there anything else and that would happen?
Heartburn was your main one.
That was my main one, which was not bad at all. That was like...
You just came out a very hairy baby.
And you came out like, look at this little hair. Look at your hair. You have like a widow's peak like Papa's. And you have like light brown hair.
And you actually have navy blue eyes right now.
Yeah, you have like
We don't know if you're still going to have navy blue eyes, but right now you do.
Right now it's a beautiful surprise. But anyway, so you had a really good pregnancy with you. No problems at all. Thanks, Papa's. No problems at all. And you were a lot of fun to carry around, and everybody loved you, and I already was so in love with you. You already impacted so many people. But anyway, on to the birth story. So basically, on April 16th, 15th,
Day of Bloody Show.
In the nighttime, when me and Papa's were going to bed, I got my bloody show, and that was really exciting, because it meant that you were really coming soon, because you were past your due date only by a few days, but I was trying to stay cool about it, and I got my bloody show literally 15, like, on the due date, and I was like, oh my gosh, Braxton, I told your dad, I was like, oh my gosh, I got my bloody show, and just really excited. I started shaking, and I called both your grandmas, Ella and Luna, and was really excited. I was shaking. I was like, I need to calm down because I know I need to rest. But at the same time, this could mean like you're coming in like still like a few days. Like it could, like I still was trying to be cool and not have expectations on you or my body.
Midwives made sure to tell us to don't get too excited. Could be a couple days. You don't want to be too tired when the actual day comes.
Exactly. So I was trying to stay cool, but I was really excited. And then, but what made me go potty actually was before I got the bloody show, my back started to cramp. So I get really bad, like almost like a Charlie horse in my back. I don't know if you know what that is. Well, at the time you ask, but like really intense pressure in my back. And I went potty, and that happened, and I was excited. And then throughout the night, I kept waking up to these like back cramps, which was unusual because I never had that during pregnancy, and I wasn't sure what that was because you're in a good position, so usually you don't get back labor or back contractions when you are in a good position like that, so I have to figure out what that was about, I guess, maybe one day. But that was happening every hour, so I wasn't really paying attention to it. I didn't really know what was going on. And in the morning time, Papa was getting ready to go to work, and all of a sudden these little drops came out of me, and I was like looking at Braxton, and I said, babe, what is that? And he goes, I don't know, let's look it up. And so we really weren't sure what it was. We thought maybe it was the water, but it was so little that, again, they said not to worry, if anything, and that was not to call yet if you have little drops or anything like that. So I didn't get too excited because I was like, maybe this is nothing normal, and so Braxton went to work, and then your grandparents came over, so your Ella and your Luna came by and hung out with me, and I was getting back contractions, which I didn't know. I just thought I was getting like this random back pain. And so your Ella did think that you were coming relatively soon. Your Luna was more like, I don't know. But she had both Braxton and Avery really late, like really later. So that's probably why. And I wasn't really sure what was happening. So they came over, and your Ella practiced hip squeeze on me, and your Luna made us breakfast, and we hung out together. It was really nice. Your Luna headed out, and Mom stayed with me. My mom stayed with me, your Ella stayed with me, and that was really good because I was getting these intense things, and I really wasn't sure what's happening, and neither did Ella at the time as well, I think. And then Andrea came over, and so throughout the day, basically, I was getting back contractions and didn't know it. And they were very irregular, and they were very... I didn't want to call the midwife, but thank goodness. So your tia Andrea came over and helped me a lot. She was really good at hip squeezes, and that was super helpful. I sat on the ball, back and forth the ball, going all fours. I tried to sleep, I couldn't sleep at all, and then at one point I had this burst of energy, and like the boys were over, I think, and I should have slept, I should have rested, but I would never take that memory back because I had a lot of fun with your uncles that day, even though I was getting contractions. And I should have slept. So next baby,
prodromal labor, and
yeah,
you were just...
I thought I was in prodromal labor, which means like really not early labor, but before that. And then, thank goodness, while the uncles were over, Papa came home, and he finished work at home, which that was a God thing. I was really grateful for that, because turns out we were actually in labor the whole time, because your Papas came home, everybody left. We were going to even try to go to small group, but I really wasn't feeling good. And then your Funty came over, your Aunt Amanda came over just to hang out with me for a hot minute, and that's when the contractions got literally like, they went from super irregular to like, one every 5 minutes, like one every 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was like lasting for like around a minute to sometimes 2
45
minutes.
45 seconds to a minute.
So they're getting really close, and I was kind of getting nervous because I was like, we're mostly supposed to focus on the contractions, but my water hadn't broke, and I didn't feel like
the contractions were kind of consistent, but not as consistent as they were saying.
Yeah, as they wanted them to be for a first time. So I was like, kind of confused, and I had a feeling, like a Holy Spirit feeling, that maybe my water did break, so I was kind of leaking all day, but it was so little leaks, I felt like. But then, thank goodness, your Papas got on me. I even, kind of yelled at your dad a little bit about it, but I'm so glad he did. Basically told me that I definitely need to call the midwife, because if it's my water, then that's really dangerous, because you only have 18 hours until your water breaks to get the baby out, so... The contractions were getting really intense, and I just was getting nervous about the car, because we had to drive 2 hours to your birth center to give birth to you there. And we called Heather. Praise God, it was Heather. And she basically was like, yes, please call me at any time, any questions. And she basically was like, kind of focusing on the water as well. The contractions
She was
were
like,
still
this
kind of
baby's
funky.
probably coming out tonight.
Yeah, she did say that, and I was like, oh my gosh, I got really excited, and brought me so much peace when Heather was talking to me, because I really was like so confused and lost about what was happening. Thanks, Papas. And so basically she said, wait and call me in an hour, put a pad on, and see if you soak the pad, like see if your water continues to be broken. And waited an hour, and the pad was wet. It was pretty wet, and I was getting really uncomfortable with the contractions. I had to move, and I couldn't really talk, and I was being like, Braxton, Papas, like when I needed him to come by and do hip squeezes or help me with something, get me water. And so they were getting intense, and I called Heather, and I was like, I really want to come, because I know we have that long drive. And so Papa's put on the Passion, because I really wanted to watch that before you were born, to like really center me and focus.
I ran around and started packing everything up that we needed.
Yeah, and at the time I thought Papa was going so slow. I remember thinking, can he hurry up? But I didn't say anything because I knew he was being really helpful, and I was just getting nervous for the car. And at that time, Papa was just getting things ready. I was going through contractions and watching the Passion. We didn't even finish the Passion. We didn't even finish the Passion.
You don't have to get that close.
Oh, sorry.
You're so cute. This is Mama's first time recording this. Yeah. And so she's very passionate, and she wants to tell everything perfect, and she wants to do this just for you.
Exactly.
So you can have this in the future whenever maybe when you're giving birth, or when you're
just questioning it or
12 years old and this is your first time watching it, whatever it may be.
And I don't miss any details, because maybe if as the time goes by, and maybe the more siblings that you have, I want to make sure that I get your story right and that you hear the full story of how wonderful it was.
Only 10 days later.
Only 10 days later. So basically, and the Papas, don't be afraid to pitch in if you remember anything like you are. So anyway, we get into the car and to pick up your Aunt Amanda, because I realized that I wanted her in the car with me, especially after that moment that she came by. And thank goodness she did, because I sat in the passenger seat to pick her up from your Luna's house, and it was really rough. It was really, really hard. I couldn't get comfortable. I was like really ouchy, and it was really tough that moment in the passenger seat, and I was having a big contraction, and I couldn't get relief, and so much that I literally just walked in the house with like a bra and a sweater and cozy pants, and went straight to the bathroom with your dad to like do work on the contraction, and everyone was there from the small group, which was so funny. I could not care less. I was just like I was just going through
Mama
it.
was focused on you.
Yeah, I was 100% focused on you. And so I got really nervous for the car ride, because that was really hard for me. And but I knew we had to do it. Like, I knew we had to go. But I did tell your pop on the way of him helping me walk to the car, can I just give birth here? Which I felt so bad, because I was worried he'd get worried. But then we hopped in the car, and
Which he did.
Which he did.
Got very worried.
Got very worried. And so I was in the car, and I was on all fours. I put basically my butt was in the air, while my shoulders were more down. I was on my forearms, and your Funty was in the passenger seat, and your dad was driving. And I could not move that position the entire car ride. That was the only position that felt good, that I could like, and even if I moved my hands or my arms or my legs just a little bit, it just would not feel good.
And Funty held her hips.
Oh my gosh, I call
the
right now.
The whole time.
Right now, I call your Funty. I call her my ride and birth, like my ride or die, but my ride and birth, because she basically was giving birth of you with me. Like, she was running the marathon the entire time. She was over me in the little Mazda. I don't know if we have the car now. That car when you're, when we're sharing this, but it was like a little Mazda, and it was a good hatchback. But there was like, she was like over me in the back seat, and just doing hip squeezes and then holding my belly. So she was holding my belly with her rebozo, and then she was giving me hip squeezes, and it was really tough, because at one point I think you wanted to come out, because I could feel like the contractions back to back, and I felt my uterus like really start contracting at the top, and it was so cool, Lola. It was such a God thing. Oh, sorry, I forgot something. Sorry, Papas. What? When I went to the house to help me get my fear out for the car, your Erica Jackson, she prayed over me right before I went into the car, and it set me 100% in the right mindset to go and be with you and be in the car for an hour, only an hour and 30 actually, because it was at night.
Originally, Mama wanted to get in the car and
just go
listen to the meditations. And
I wanted
stuff
to
like
listen
that,
to meditations.
To focus and on her strength and everything. And in that moment, she realized she needed to listen to worship music.
Yeah, and
that's where
your peaceful pushing track.
Your peaceful push track.
Yeah, and so that was, I knew I needed that. I was like, that's what I need to keep going. And it was like a Holy Spirit thing. So many Holy Spirit moments. And I sung to you, and I sung the worship music, and your Funty and your dad sung it with me, and then it got more intense, and I did my breathing. I did a lot of oohs and ahs, and then sometimes when it get really intense, I go ooh, and it would be like, I have to,
and we would be like ooh,
and it'd help bring me back. I'd like go ooh, and then they'd do like ooh,
and then she would go ooh.
Yeah. And then at one point, which was one of my favorite parts of telling you this story, was I was really wanting to push. I really wanted to push you, and we were in the car, and we were still like maybe 30 to 15 minutes away, and I was praying, and I was talking to God, asking him for help, asking him for rest, and then I started talking to you, and I said, Lola, I said, please, I said, I'm sorry, I'm not ready, we're not there yet, can you please wait? And I was just asking you for help. And Lola, the contractions were so back to back and so intense, but you stopped. Like, my body stopped, and it gave me enough rest to be able to put myself back together and refocus, and then boom, I was able to get through the rest of the car without pushing you out on the side of the road. And so that was like really cool.
Whenever we talked about the distance, it was an hour and a half.
Yeah, it was an hour and a half.
Mom was on her all fours, elbows and knees, while Funty sat back there squeezing hips and doing the rebozo, so that you had to hold on for that long.
You had to hold on for that long. You were ready to come out. I knew you were ready to come out. Or you wanted to get really close to coming out, but I had to hold you back, which I'm so sorry. But so thank you for helping me.
Look at you now.
Look at you. Thanks, Papas.
Look at you now.
Look at you, happy, healthy baby. And then, and so we got to the birth center, and that was so relieving. Heather literally grabs me and she goes, "Oh, that was so hard, wasn't it?" And I remember being like, "Yes, it was." And I was like, and she just helped me walk out, and your dad was right next to me, and we went potty real quick, and your dad was with me, and I had like a contraction, and when we went to the exam room, she checks me to see how much I'm dilated, which means to see how wide the cervix is for your head to come out.
How much room you have to come out?
Yep, and I was 7 to 8 centimeters she charted me at, so basically 7 centimeters, which was the perfect amount to give birth at the birthing center, so it worked out amazing.
She needed to be 10, but 7 to 8 meant that she basically had 2 or 3 hours before she'd give birth.
Yeah, and then the birth center, the way it worked is you had to be 7 centimeters dilated to be able to birth at the
go in,
or else they would be like, okay, you need to wait a little bit. So I'm so glad. I'm sure though Heather would have taken me if I was like only 3 or 4 and I was that,
and you were feeling
and I was feeling that. So I'm sure, because your midwife was amazing, so perfect for us. Yeah, so perfect for us. And so basically get there, she checks me, my water starts spilling more on the floor, she's like, watch your step. And then we get into the room, and I'm just trying to get comfortable, and I had to like tell my brain, no, it's okay, you can ride the contractions, you don't have to hold back anymore. So I basically went to the shower real quick, your papa's rinsed water over me, and then I went right into the bath, which was really awesome, which I was really happy about. And so basically I was in the bath on all fours, or I was trying to figure it out, and then I realized all fours was the best, and Papa's was with me just holding me near my head. And then my eyes are now closed this whole time. So I'll tell you what I felt, and then your Papas can tell you more of what really happened with my eyes closed. But basically, I know that Ella and Tia Andrea came, and they started helping, and they either were spraying water on my back and doing hip squeezes, I think, and my mom and that was happening. Was that what was going on?
Yeah. So it was Ella, Andrea, which is Tia Andrea, and Amanda. And so it was the three
Amanda,
girls.
because Amanda was in the car. Sorry.
And myself, and I was just there holding Mom's hands while she closed her eyes and breathed, and she was like, "Ooh," and we have those photos, so you can see exactly what was going on in that moment.
Yeah.
And then we had those 3 women that were just sitting there, loving on your mama and making sure that she was comfortable, so that she would be in the best position to be able to give birth to you.
Yep. And it was really cool because it was like they were moving all as one body, Lola. Like I would feel water down my back with like a basin pouring it, and then I'd feel like the shower hitting me in the back, and then I'd have like hip squeezes somewhere here and there, and then I'd have your Papas with me putting a compress, and then your Ella talking to me and encouraging me the whole time, and then little Heather, and Heather, your midwife, I thought she wasn't going to be around. I thought she would just let us do our thing, check on us. She was there the entire time, just like sitting at the bath, watching you, making sure you were safe. At some point, I was in the tub, and I was like, can I push? I really want to push. And she goes, I think she at first told me to wait, and then she goes, if you feel like you have to push. And so I did in the bathtub for a while. Nothing really happened, or I didn't feel like, well, there was always progress, but nothing like exponentially to where you're coming out. And so Heather basically was like, hey, I know you're not going to like this idea probably, but I think we should come out of the bath and you should go potty, so sit on the toilet for a second, and then I want to check you, or no, she said, and maybe go on, do something different basically. And so I went to the potty, I went pee, and I did some contractions in the potty, but I didn't like that really. And then Papa goes, this is the only time I kind of like went out of my zone. Papa says,
out of her closed eyes.
Yeah, I was closed eyes the whole
focus
time.
Zone, going in.
Papa goes, do you want a birth on the birth stool? And I was really excited when he said that because I was reading a book. I only read one pregnancy book, really. And one of the things it said was women back in the day, like, gave birth on the birth stool. Like, that was, like, a big invention during birth, that when women didn't have interventions, that's how they gave birth. And so I was like, I got really excited. I opened my eyes and I looked at him and I was like, they have a birth stool? And then Papa says,
I go, let me double check.
And I basically, don't get my hopes up. I was like, please ask, don't get my hopes up. And I can't believe, like, I locked out and I locked back in real quick. And then, so they did have a birth stool, which is awesome. And I birthed you a ton on that birth stool. I really pushed.
A lot. That was the main
excitement. That was, like, the most, like, climactic, or rising action.
That was the where you did your,
most of the
transition?
Yes. Transition is on the birth stool, basically. And so transition was probably about an hour.
Yeah, probably about an hour.
Because the
you were on the birth stool. You went to the bed.
Yes. Oh, because then I was on the birth stool. Nothing was happening. So then she wanted to check me for a cervical lift. Basically, this is when the cervix is, like, kind of blocking your head, Lolas, for you to get out. And it just a little bit needs to get pushed out of the way. But so they lay me down to check. And at this point, your Uncle Avery accidentally walks in while I'm, like, wide eagle on the bed, which was so funny. I didn't know that story till later. I was totally, like, didn't care. When you're in birth, you're just in a whole nother cool realm where you're just in the zone and you don't mind
focusing on the baby.
Focusing completely on your baby and the body and God, because, and everyone is, there's, like, it's incredible how God designed birth, in his design. And so basically I lay on the bed. She does see there's a cervical lift, and she goes, basically, you have a cervical lift. She goes, if you want to, I can move it out of the way next contraction, but it's not going to feel great. And I look at her and go, it's not going to feel great? She goes, it's not going to feel great. So I'm thinking, like, I did the car, and that didn't feel too great. And I did that, and I did that. Like, I did that. I could probably do that. But I really didn't want intervention. I really wanted to do everything natural without too much help, even though that help was still natural in a way. And so I gave it a shot. I sat on the birth stool, and again, Holy Spirit instinct, I lifted you as you were in my belly. I lifted you. I leaned forward. Also, Bridget Taylor was someone I was watching on YouTube at the time, which helped me. BLT, which was like BLT,
confident?
No, be open. BL, like gravity, and then T.
No.
Lean
trust
forward.
Gravity.
Lean forward, and then trust gravity. And so basically that was in my head for some reason out of all the things. And then I leaned forward. I lifted you up with my hand. I lifted my belly up, and I breathed through. So I like expanded my belly, and I made it really big. And then when I had the contraction, I tightened my abs, and I pushed, try to push you out, lifting my belly. And I was expecting the midwife after a few of those sessions to tell me, okay, do you want me to try now to get the cervix out of the way? But instead, she told me I did it, that I moved the cervix out of the way. She said I breathed my cervix out of the way, which was an incredible feeling because I was feeling so tired, Lola. Because I think because my uterus was doing so much work in the car and I had to tell it no, it was such a mind over matter game. Like I had to mentally tell my uterus to push. Like when you're running a marathon or and you're tired, you're so tired, but you see the finish line and you have to push yourself to keep going, but you're like kind of on reserves. And so basically that was happening toward the end of the pushing phase. And so I breathed the cervix out, and now she said, you can push. So I was so tired, Lolas, but I wasn't going to let exhaustion get to me. And I started doing different positions on the birth stool. Like at one point, I kneeled, and I was holding your Papas and holding your Luna, and then it swapped to Ella later. And your Papa started counting. So like I would push all the way to 10, and that was so helpful for me.
So we'd be like, a contraction would come in, and I'd go 1, 2, and your mom would sit there and go.
Yeah, and I pushed one like all the way to 10, but I would only make it to like 6 or 8 at the time, at the first part, which was like kind of frustrating.
Then you started getting better and better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you said it was getting frustrating.
It was getting frustrating because my body would need so much rest in between, and I just wanted to see you. I was so excited to see you, and then and then so basically that was happening for a long time, and I had to really, and then I had to push I had to do 3 pushes with every contraction, almost like I was pooping you out. Like I had to really like push. But the funny thing is, of course, I didn't have to poop, or I didn't have the contractions weren't strong enough that like helped me, so I had to do it on my own almost. And then at one point, so I do that for a while, and then we get to the end, and I'm talking to God the whole time, asking for help, and he would give me a contraction, whether it was big or little, he'd give me one every time that helped me push you out, and then I would tell myself, like, okay, this rest is good, so this rest is okay, this rest is good, and I'm going to use this rest to keep going, to then push forward, then I'm going to push, I'm going to rest, and then I'm going to push. And so when would come, your dad would count, your mom, your Ella would count, and we'd push. And then it started getting so exciting. At one point, I did tell your crew, because everyone at the time was like standing and watching you about to come out. And I told everyone to be quiet at first. And then it was so exciting because then everyone said, oh, I see the head. And that's when I was like, it was another like pick me up. Burst of energy. And I was like, oh. And so at that one point,
in the final stretch.
I was in the final stretch. And so I did not know this, but apparently I stood up. And I pushed you out enough where your head was crowning. So I was squatting like a wide stance squat. Your Ella was holding my legs were shaking, and holding the flashlight for the midwife to see you, and the midwife was like under me, which I had no idea. And your Papas would hold me. I was like grabbing Papa's face and shoulders and like everything. And then your head came out, and then I had to sit down, and that's when my body was finally like, okay, we gotta get this thing out. It felt like an organ was coming out of me. I wanted to push you back in. It didn't hurt. I wouldn't say it hurt. I would say it was just it was like a foreign experience. I just didn't know what was happening. And so Heather goes, that's the head. And so I stopped. I literally tried to stop her hand, but I like lifted my hand up. I kept grabbing Papa's, or your Ella, I think, or whoever was next to me, or I just, whatever. And, I sat back down on the birth stool, and I pushed you out, and then all of a sudden, apparently, you had your hand right here while you were coming out, and it was kind of,
a fist.
It was like a fist like that.
Yep.
So you were like this coming out, and Heather, your midwife, took your hand, pulled it out, and then you just slide right out, and then you were right on my chest, and you were on my chest. And you were like a light color. You were like blue or something, I think Papa says. Mm-hmm. And you were covered in the cheese. You're covered in the vernix.
And then you started coughing.
And you went, and I was rubbing you. And you like kind of, it's kind of held still it was kind of lull of quiet. And
for
then
about
you give
10 seconds.
Then you give this big, big cry. And you gave your big, big cry. And I was like, and the whole time my eyes were closed, Lola. But as soon as you were on my chest, eyes were open, like in all the ways, and it was the best day of my life, and everything that happened, all the triumph that we did together, of the car and the house, and not knowing what's happening, and in the tub and on the stool, and the pushing, and the mind over matter, and you and your head being out, it was so small, like compared to you on me and crying and healthy and happy. And so, and then, and yeah, so that's your birth story. The placenta came out right away. They were a little nervous about the bleeding, I guess, but it's only because...
placenta detached while you were still being born.
Exactly. So I was totally healthy. No extra things needed.
Yep.
They put me right on the bed, and you were so cozy. You cuddled. You were crying still, but you stayed. You like rested immediately, like as you were on the bed, and your eyes were open. Like your eyes were like open, and you were like aware a little bit, and then you just like slept. And you were covered in the cheese, and you pooped on me. You pooped on me like many times, which I was so happy about.
3 times.
Because I knew you were a healthy baby. I knew you were super good. Your digestive system was working. And everyone got to, Papa's was right next to me on the bed with you, and everyone got to be in. So like then all the dads and your great Ella came in, and all the uncles, and they got to meet you, and everyone was crying and so excited. You'll have to ask them their version of your birth story, because they were all there.
Uncle Victor. Tio has
Tio has his version.
Has a good version. He also has a video of it. So maybe if we don't have that video, maybe he'll still have that video.
Yeah, or we'll definitely show it to you at some point. I'll find him, and you'll get to see them eventually or during this time where we're talking about it. And
Big stretch.
You can ask your Uncle Finn and your Tia and your Funty and your Soapbox and your Funkle and your Uncle Logan, Uncle Finn,
Abuelo,
Ella, Luna, Elle. Yeah, you have so many people who have the different. You have a lot of people who love you, and who loved you since we found out you were alive and in my tummy. And you have an incredible village surrounding you, Lolas, that you can always lean on, and they're so safe. But yeah, and then Papa's got to weigh you and cut your umbilical cord. We got to touch the placenta.
Did, yeah. That was the first time I held you. Your mom held you for about an hour and a half after you were born. Didn't let you go. She hogged you, and I was like, well, maybe I'll get her a little later. And the midwife said, well, you know what? When we weigh her, what we'll do is we'll hand her off to Dad, and then Dad will take her, and then Mom can go take a shower. And I was like, yes. So once we got to the point where we were gonna weigh you, and we cut your umbilical cord, and then we brought you over, laid you down. I think we already said this, but you were 8 pounds 6.5 ounces, which is a big baby. It's a big baby.
It's a good sized baby.
And
you were chunky too. You were already chunky. You got those cheeks.
Yeah.
They've only got they were the same size.
Then we measured you. Bigger. You cried a lot. When we were measuring
you.
You didn't like that we were pulling you around. You were so cold.
So cold.
But the second we wrapped you back up, you got nice and warm and quiet, and Mom took a shower, and I held you for probably about 30 minutes, and then once Mom came back out, I gave you back to her, and she held you for a little while longer, and then we just wrapped things up. We had a couple things still to do, packing everything that we brought with us, because we thought we were going to be there for a longer.
We did. We were ready because you were first baby, and usually first babies, it can take like 12 hours.
Yeah, 8 to 12 hours, and you only took 2.5.
You only took 2.5 to 3, so that was incredible.
Probably about 4.5 if we include the car.
Yep, and I had like no concept of time, so it felt like a long time, but it wasn't at all. It was thank you, Lola. It was very short and amazing, and
we had a blast.
It
was probably one of the scariest things I've ever been through, but it was also one of the most just heart-filled things I've ever been through, especially me being there for your mama. I didn't expect to be as involved as I was. I thought the women were going to be more around Mama, and I wouldn't let go. No. I was with your Mama the whole time.
Which I needed. Your Papa, you'll see the photos. Your Papa's was amazing. He was confident, and he was cool, and he was there for me exactly the way I needed it. I look at the photos and I think it's so romantic, because I had no idea. I was like so in the zone with you, and I needed your Papas to be the person that kept me steady so that I could focus on you the entire time. And it was amazing. I was so impressed and in love. So in love with your Papas. And you.
You're the first one, Lolas.
You're the first Reynolds of our family. I'm so glad you are the first. It's perfect. It's meant to be.
We know you're going to be a great little leader. You're going to love your brothers and sisters so well.
And love others so well. You're my lady of love. I call you.
Lady of love. Lola Emery, which means?
Lola means lady of sorrows, like Mary for Jesus, like his mommy. And then Emery means loving. So your name is basically
loving sorrow.
Your loving sorrow. Sorrowful love, which is just like that intense love that Mary felt when Jesus was dying on the cross, going through his passion. So that's your name.
We love you, Lola.
We love you, Lola, so much. We love you more than life itself.
For sure. Mom and I have already talked about that a lot.
Yeah, we did.
Love you, Loz.
Love you, Loz.